me, Hans Paul Willer, 1928, with my mother. My earliest memories was in the days before cars were commonplace. You had horse-driven traffic, and my friend and I used to hold a paper streamer across the road, which when a car came along we would put down so it wouldn't damage it, and when a horse and cart came along we would raise it so the horse would break the streamer. All very exciting for a 4-year-old. At school I had no problems at the first school, the Maxschule, but in the Realgymnasium the spirit of Hitler was beginning to creep in, and my mother had to sign a form which would proclaim that I was Aryan and not Jewish. And I always remember how ashamed I felt when she had to write he was halb Jewish, half Jewish. And I thought, oh, this isn't a good omen for me at all. So anyway, I took the form back and that was that. On another occasion, I remember in my bedroom was next to the sitting room, and it was a brick wall, and I brought home a compass from my geometry set, and I gradually bored a hole from the bedroom into the sitting room through which I could peek at night what the adults were doing. And to my astonishment, one night the local chief of the Hitler Youth was sitting at the table with my grandmother, who was trying to explain why I couldn't be allowed to join the Hitler Youth because I was half Jewish. So that was interesting. I think the hole might still be there. But I remember extremely well. We had to walk to school, a distance of about 2 miles in my case, and I was doing that walk one morning, and there used to be 2 huts on the way to school. One hut was a little kiosk for sweets and things, and the other hut was a very small police station. They were about 100 yards apart. And one day when walking to school, I noticed that the kiosk had been ransacked, ruined. So I went up to the police station and said, Frau Schmidt's kiosk has been broken into. Did you know that? And the police officers were just laughing and smacking each other on the shoulder as if they had witnessed a great joke. I didn't realize the significance of that at the time, but obviously they had done the job. She found us a little house on the outskirts of Würzburg, and we lived there for a short while. But then the landlord of that house was obviously told not to house us on account of our Jewishness or half Jewishness. So we then moved in with my grandmother, who had a large flat which was owned by the university on account of her husband's job there. And we lived there for about 3 years, I suppose, until the university decided to oust her on account of her Jewishness. So then we had to pack up everything and we went off to live in a hotel near the main station, hoping to catch a train out of Germany, a task upon which my mother worked long and hard, with many visits to Frankfurt to the British consul there, from whom she finally got a visa. And so we left Würzburg in April 1939. Oh, I'd heard a few weeks before because my mother was trying to prepare me for this change of life. And she just described English houses to me and how everybody had a little bit of grass on the front, which they called a lawn. And she said, at the breakfast time, you will get cornflakes, and they're like this. And she had bought a packet from somewhere to show us what cornflakes looked like. And I thought, oh, this was very interesting. But that's all I remember about that. Bobby Kollmeyer waved me goodbye as the train left Würzburg for what I thought might be the last time. And so we travelled on. And on that journey, we had to go through customs. And the customs officer came and said to me, well, examining all our things, and said, oh, that's a nice watch. The Führer would like to have that. Would you give it to the Führer? And I was a bit put off because I liked that watch. I'd only had it for Christmas a few months earlier, and it had luminous hands, a very modern thing in those days. So anyway, I reluctantly gave my watch to the Führer. Then a few miles further on, we were obviously by now in Holland, and my mother said, we are in Holland, we are all safe. And we embarked at the Hook of Holland to the overnight ferry, which was for a little boy a grand adventure. Eventually we came to Harwich, where we disembarked, got on a train, and were met in Liverpool Street by my uncle Otto. I, at that time, was put in a house with the family Attlee, the future Prime Minister. And of course I didn't know he was a politician who was going to be Prime Minister. I was just in a big house with a family, 4 children. There was the boy, Martin, and the 3 girls, Janet, Felicity, and Alison. And we played happily in their garden. I knew not a single word of English, and they knew no German. And we had to communicate in Latin, because I did know that, and so did their middle daughter, Felicity. So very haltingly we made communications through this method. But in due course I learned English. Took no more than 6 weeks. The first morning when I got up, Martin, the boy, pointed me in the direction of the bathroom, and he filled the bath with cold water, and to my horror, got in, completely indulged himself in this cold bath. And then he pointed to me and said, you get in. So I thought, how horrible. And this was Easter Monday. So I thought, this must be some strange English custom for Easter. So I got in. It wasn't all that bad. But to my horror, this event took place every morning thereafter. Nothing to do with Easter at all. Mr. Attlee had a habit, while sitting at the table, of holding up pennies, old pennies, so that the face of the king or queen was pointed towards us children. And we had to guess what the date of that coin was based on the information we should have had about the king or queen that was on the front. I I didn't get any right, of course, but the children succeeded. It was a happy family atmosphere. He was a member of Parliament and important politician. He used to get mounds of post, but I didn't know what was all that about at the time. Live for the moment, because life is too short. And if I'm speaking to my children, don't quarrel.